I took some time last night to go over the book I mentioned last week, Behind the Cambodian Killing Fields, and I met the author of the book at someone's house about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And as I started to flip through it, it is an interesting thing to contemplate how someone psychologically can keep it together after witnessing families forced to produce rice for China during that period of time in Cambodia with their current form of military rule at that time during the 1970s. It's almost beyond description when you get into the rape, the cannibalism, the genocide, the murder, the families in the rice fields, and the men that were dragged off every single day to the camps that were starved to death in similar facilities to Nazi Germany's gas chambers. Some days later, sometimes they would go after the family after they took the father. One of the most dehumanizing things that I see on the planet today that goes beyond time, goes beyond space, is the breakup of the family. It's the breakup of community. It's the breakup of a genuine tribal structure. And it's been replaced because in our primitive bodies and human intellect, we're still tribal. We're still drawn to a sense of community. We're still drawn to the ancient art of hunting, but it's all simulated now, it's all altered. The hunting, the warring spirit, it's replaced with professional sports. The tribal nature, the community, it's replaced with your workplace. Nationality has represented what used to be your family. Now, this isn't the same for everyone, but it's happening incrementally. How much it costs to actually create a family. All this propaganda about human beings being an actual virus instead of beautiful souls living in a physical environment, this classroom, this place of learning. Our perception of reality is being skewed from even inside the environmental movement in terms of looking at our own potential and how we should be here. We should be flourishing, but not the way that we are, in a completely different way. When you read about this man's story, and you read about how strong he is, how he can write about it, how he can discuss it and carry on a normal life, brings me a little bit of hope. Because I see a lot of people that think in this society that they're in pain, that they can't go on, like they've seen too much, when all they've done is just simply read the news articles, is just simply see the propaganda on the television set and eat the unnatural food. It's still not the same hellhole as the people are experiencing today in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, in Burma, in China, in Indonesia. It's a nightmare there. Here, it's heaven if you were to compare it. Now, that's going to change in the years to come. But it brings you some clarity, because when you do talk about the whole concept of the end of the world or end of a civilization, from what perspective are you looking at it? From your perspective as an American with our current ability to still go out and get food and water and have a place to live, although it's getting more expensive by the year. I'm looking for a place to live right now, and I can hardly afford to live in this city any longer. You look on Craigslist, and the rooms for rent are inflated by about another $100 a month compared to what it was a year ago. And there are all these editorials coming out and articles in the Oregonian and the Portland Tribune talking about what it's going to be like in 5 to 10 years. And I may have to leave. And I don't want to leave. But Portland has a very interesting future heading for it as well as a result of urban sprawl. With smaller spaces to work with, eventually, for a lot of us to stay afloat, we're going to have to begin to learn to live more on a collective level, communally. Not every man, not every woman can have their own place in the world of tomorrow in Portland. It's not a physical reality, not unless you're the rich, the powerful, or the wealthy. That's just a fact of life. And with that, we're going to have to go to the next phone call, or the first phone call of the evening. We have a couple phone calls on hold. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, Alex. How
Hi.
you doing? I was kind of hoping that Derek Jensen was still going to be, or at least watching the program. I was kind of curious about his take about the hemp plant, because that's just one It's one crop. It's fiber for clothes. It's paper, pulp for paper. It's got hundreds of medicinal uses. I don't know if you've watched Organ Normal.
Right. There's a lot to learn about hemp. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, and even for recreation, it's an outside the box type of recreation. Alcohol numbs the cerebral cortex. It makes some people act like a real jerk. And you know, marijuana, people who are like violent when they drink, you know, you give them some hemp and they're
Now that's
laughing.
That's a great point. But how does it relate to where we are now in attempting to stay alive? Because you're right. You're right. You're not wrong. But there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of different foods that we can eat that are truly medicine in nature if you look at the health benefits of raw spinach, raw almonds. And you begin to ask yourself the question, why is the USDA moving to pasteurize raw greens? Why is the USDA moving to get rid of raw almonds? What would they have to gain from this? And so when you look at the whole perspective, you realize that we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and we've developed collectively this reliance on the pharmaceutical, medical, industrial complex.
Well, I'll tell you this, they can't genetically modify the hemp seed because there's too much of it out there that they can't get a hold of.